I think just knowing that there are so many caring people around to be there for them for whatever they should need, that does grant a big peace of mind.
Hi, I'm Agnes Stowicki, Managing Editor with Comfort Life. We're speaking with insiders from Canada's leading retirement communities and care providers to uncover insights to community lifestyle, care, culture, and leadership. This includes insights from residents, family members, and administration. This is the Comfort Life Insider Perspective.
I think it's a real commitment to excellent care for each individual. I think they really try to get to know the individual clients and what they like and what they really enjoy doing, and really try to make sure that's there for them. So that's something I really appreciate, and I know my parents do too. I think there are a number of little details that I can share. Um, Both my parents moved here from Montreal in August of 2019. And although my dad had just turned 90 and my mom was in her late 80s, they were still quite active, going out to concerts in Montreal, and really enjoyed spending a lot of time at the beautiful Westmont Library near where they live, and taking classes. And they're very engaged people who are curious about a lot of things, love music and culture, and so we wanted to be sure that they would be continuing to get that when they moved to Toronto. Both the location, but also the amenities that were offered. So they both started going to poetry classes every Monday, where people would bring in a poem and discuss it, and try and have a really kind of fulsome discussion about the poem and poetry in general. And I know that meant a lot to them, that there were people in the community that shared that interest of theirs. I know that they have really enjoyed some of the classical music concerts that have been offered, and some of the jazz bands that were playing both outside and inside. I remember taking them to I think it was a duo of piano and cello in the St. George room, which is a beautifully appointed room with a lovely grand piano. And this was pre-COVID, and pretty packed in, of so many people enjoying this beautiful music. I think they were students from U of T, and it was just lovely. It's that kind of thing that just felt like this would be the right place for my parents, where they'd get to continue enjoying the things that they love to do. Oh, the staff is wonderful. They are so friendly and so kind, and they get to know everybody and their names. And that's one thing I definitely noticed when we were taking our tours and visiting, was that the staff seemed happy. And I think that tells you so much about management, and the way people are, the way staff is treated. And of course, you want your family to be in a place where the staff is happy to be there and happy to take care of them, and that they feel like they're doing something good and worthwhile with their working lives by helping people in a retirement setting. That was another thing that impressed me, is that it just felt like a beautiful space to live in. I believe, I'm not sure, but I believe it was a former hotel, and so you can sort of feel that kind of soaring lobby when you enter. It just feels so spacious and airy. And then the dining room also has that sort of airy feeling. it doesn't feel cramped at all. And then the St. George's room, which is sort of a St. George's Lounge, I believe. It's on the main floor, and that has a sort of U shape where people can gather in little groups. And there's a couple of gas fireplaces, so you can just bring a book and get cozy near there. Then there's a small library where you can borrow books and just get something and either curl up by the fire or bring it back to your suite. So that was really impressive. And then downstairs, there's a lovely games room with a pool table and a foosball table and a bunch of games that I knew would be really appealing to my children when they would come to visit their grandparents. And sure enough, that was a big hit. It's really nice. They're on the 5th floor and they overlook Avenue Road. So they've got 2 bathrooms and a nicely appointed kitchen. That's one thing I really appreciate about turnover, is that the rooms are always upgraded. The suites are always upgraded. So, new countertop or painting or whatever's needed just to make it fresh for the new client. I think that's really important. So just the way it's shaped, again, a kind of U shape, does sort of make it feel like, there's plenty of space. And so it's a 1-bedroom, but it does feel, with the bedroom being on one side and then the living room in the middle and then the sort of kitchen. My mom has turned it into a kitchen/office area. So it feels all, it flows very nicely, but at the same time, it feels like everything has its place. When they first moved in there, I kept saying, you know what, I'd kind of like to move in here. I like the exercise room, I like the classes, I like, the dining room and meals being taken care of. So that might say more about my time of life. But well, I think a lot of it is about, to be quite frank, my peace of mind and my sister's peace of mind, because we were living in a different city from them, and they were on their own in an apartment. And while they were still managing to keep up, it sort of felt like it's better to make the move while you are still keeping up, rather than when it's getting to be way too much. So, I think, well, sometimes I think my mom would like to cook, or has the idea that she would like to cook. I think she's also just fine with having other people do the cooking now. And the shopping, the grocery shopping having gone away, and all those kinds of time-consuming and challenging as you get older activities or tasks, for that all to be gone, I think is an improvement. I think the fact that there is nursing staff in the building, they haven't needed it, but at the same time, I think it grants a peace of mind. Same with their alert bracelets, which all clients are given upon their moving in. They can either have it in the form of a watch or a kind of a necklace, and that's just in case someone has a fall and needs help, they can get help 24/7. And that kind of thing, again, it hasn't been called for yet, thankfully, but it does give us all a peace of mind. And of course, to be in the same city as us, but that isn't Hazelton specific. But I think just knowing that there are so many caring people around, to be there for them, for whatever they should need, that does grant a big peace of mind. And then, of course, the bigger improvement, again, we couldn't have foreseen it, but is COVID. And the fact that they were on the one hand, you could say, well, they were in a communal setting, that's more dangerous. But on the other hand, I really felt from the very beginning of the pandemic that the staff and management of Hazelton handled it extremely well. I think they took it incredibly serious from the get-go, and had all kinds of precautions in place early. And while it was a huge adjustment for everyone and their families to make, I think they weathered the storm extremely well, and I really commend all of them, from management on down, for the way that it was handled. That's a great question. Um, I think it comes down to kindness and care. I really feel that all of the staff that I've met there, are exceptionally kind and warm, and take a lot of pride in the care that they show to the residents there. It's so nice to hear, people whom I don't know warmly greet my parents by name, and it's clear that they've gotten to know them a little bit and they're fond of them, and that comes through very strongly. Well, I've got to say it's been a huge relief for us to know that, one, that they are nearby, and two, even at the time, for several months when we couldn't see them, to know that they had help, that, if they were having some computer issues, then someone could come help them with that in the building. And if obviously if they needed medical care, that there was someone there with them. That would have been extremely stressful for us, were they living on their own in another city that we couldn't even get to. So that's been wonderful. I think it's been wonderful for my grandchildren, to have them, for their grandchildren, rather, my children, to have them so close by, and now to be able to see them again frequently. Um, and yes, just sort of being part of our daily and weekly lives, rather than, quarterly, which was how often we were able to visit them before. I'd say if you are lucky enough to get a spot, uh, do it. I think the entire team there are really dedicated and very caring, and they seem to be consistently looking to make improvements where they can. So I feel like they ask for feedback, and when it is given, they internalize it and do something about it, and that's greatly appreciated. Um, I would say if there is a spot, and it's a place that appeals to you, there's a good reason for that, because it really is. I feel it's a what you see is what you get, and then some kind of offering. A matter of considering where your loved ones are now, and their interests, and their abilities, but also what going forward could possibly look like. And so we really appreciated the fact that there is assisted living on the second floor, so that if one of them were to take a turn, that they could move into assisted living, and still feel very much like a part of the community. Um, uh, I like the fact that they have sort of like a menu of services available, from helping you with laundry to personal care, which you can kind of choose a la carte, so that should circumstances change and your loved ones need more help, that is available for them, but that they can still very much keep the life that they started at Hazelton, but adjust with change if and when it comes. I think it was a number of factors. It was, boxes that we wanted to check in terms of um, location, activities. I think that was a big part of it, just knowing that there would be activities on offer that would be interesting to my parents. They're, you would call them culture vultures. They like the arts. They like the proximity to good museums and interesting day trips and that kind of thing. So that was a big part of it. I think just going to see the place and see what a nice, comfortable setting it is. And then the suites themselves, but I think also the staff. I talked a lot with Leslie Westlake, who is the marketing manager there, who was just tireless in her work to help us get in and then get settled. And she was seemingly available 24/7, always responding so quickly to emails. And she and her team were really terrific. I think it was the offerings in terms of activities. They just seemed to line up with their interests in terms of culture, in terms of continuing to learn. I like the fact that there were a couple of pianos there. My mom likes to play piano, and so she's been down to the art room in the basement just to practice, and in the lower lobby, I should say. And she really enjoys that. I think the location within Toronto, they're really about a 10 to 15-minute walk away from the Royal Ontario Museum, which is really interesting to them. Um, and then the suites themselves, very nicely appointed, and the view onto Avenue Road is a lovely one. And then the food. I think that's a huge consideration when you think that your all your meals except for when you go out to restaurants will be there. And so I think we ended up, between the entire family, probably going 2 or 3 times at different meals, and they were very good. So that's another very important consideration. She even helped us find the appropriate movers, which I which I really, I was a little bit concerned about, moving the most of the contents of their apartment from Montreal to Toronto, and they had paintings and things that required sort of kid glove care. And she recommended movers who were terrific. So it really felt like a kind of door-to-door service. Well, I was very fortunate to have my sister really spearheading that process, who is a master organizer. And so she handled most of it on the Montreal end, and I was handling things on the Toronto end. It's a multitude of details, but I feel that, you know, uh, in terms of Hazelton, I just felt I felt in very good hands. That any question that I had, and I can't remember them all because it was a couple of years ago now, but I just felt like no question was too small. And, when we were trying to figure out about, will this piece of furniture fit there, or, and so forth, they were able to send us over a floor plan so that we can make those decisions. And, you know, I know Leslie went up on more than one occasion to take a look at something to be able to answer one of our questions that had to be related to the move. So they were just really going above and beyond. We were trying not to be nuisances, of course, but they just sort of felt like they were there to do whatever we needed in order to make the move as smooth and easy as possible. There was a lovely welcome basket with some very nice flowers and a bottle of wine and some chocolates. And, you know, Leslie called to say, now, you know, do your parents drink alcohol? Do they have, you know, is your dad a Scotchman, that kind of thing? And, you know, I said they both like they both like a nice bottle of wine, and so they sent one along and some beautiful flowers. It just felt really personalized, and there was some chocolates. It was just it was so thoughtful, and we really appreciated that. I would probably say that for myself. I know that my parents were sad to leave Montreal, and I think we're just glad that they made the move while they were still mobile and you know, able to get out and enjoy the city. But I somehow don't think. In fact, we tried, I think 2 years prior, and they said, no, we're good. We're going to stay in Montreal. And then 2 years later, they said, okay, yeah, we're ready to go now. So I think that argument would fall flat in our house. But maybe for me, maybe when I get to that age, I might say, oh, you know what? I'm gonna, if I think I might want to put it off for another couple of years, maybe I will make it sooner.
For more information about this community, you can visit their profile at comfortlife.ca.